Is my fiancé my mom's lover? I still can't forget that day. It was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life, but my life has been shattered ever since. As a bride-to-be, I had the honor of introducing my fiancé to my family for the first time. But the truth that was revealed was something I could never have imagined. My name is Rachel. I'm 29 years old, and I work in marketing in New York City. I don't believe in love easily, but when I met Brian, I thought for the first time, maybe this is the one. He was warm, intelligent, and most of all, he cared about me. We dated for about a year and a half before we got engaged. Everything was perfect. He gave me his whole heart, and I gave him mine. I had never felt so sure of anything in my life, so I was looking forward to introducing him to my family, and I knew that my parents would be there to congratulate me on my happiness. The day I showed up at my parents' house with my fiancé Brian, I was a little giddy. My dad and brother were happy to see me, but my mom was strangely quiet. At first, I thought she was just nervous. But the moment I saw the look on her face when she saw Brian, I knew something was wrong. Her face turned pale for a moment, and I could see her hands trembling. But then she calmed down and smiled and greeted us. Later, when she went out to the kitchen, I followed her, worried. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you sick?" She waved her hand lightly and said she was fine. But the look in her eyes was so unnerving. Until then, I thought she was simply worried about her daughter, who was getting married. But that wasn't it. No, it couldn't be. Her demeanor throughout dinner was strange, and Brian seemed uneasy too. I tried to lighten the mood, thinking it was just the two of them being awkward. But the conversation kept drifting off track. Finally, my mom asked, "Brian, have I seen you somewhere before? You look familiar." At that moment, Brian's expression stiffened, but he forced a smile and said, "That can't be. I've only lived in New York until I met Rachel." But my mom didn't seem to believe him, and before long, she pulled my dad and me aside and said quietly, "We need to think about this. I think we need to rethink this marriage." I was shocked. I looked at my mom in disbelief. "Why, Mom, what's wrong?" Then my mom spoke in a very low voice. "Brian, the guy, he was my lover." I felt my breath catch in my throat. My mom's confession was unbelievable and shocking. There was a time, years ago, when she and Dad separated, and she met another man, and he was special to her. But eventually, she said, she went back to my dad and ended the relationship, and his name was... "Brian, you're lying," I shouted, but my mom's expression was so serious. I didn't want to believe it. The man I loved, the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, was my mom's lover. I frantically went to Brian and confronted him. His response was even more shocking. He denied it at first, but eventually admitted it. "Rachel, I didn't know your mom was an ex-girlfriend. I'm serious, it was an accident." He continued to apologize, but nothing fell on my ears. Maybe he really didn't know. But did it matter? To me, he was the person I trusted the most. The person who had asked me to marry him, but he was my mom's lover. Did that make sense? I eventually broke off my engagement to Brian. As much as I loved him, his very presence rocked my family to its core, and my mom had a huge falling out with my dad over it. In the end, my family was scarred beyond repair. To this day, I can't say that my love for Brian is completely gone, but one thing is clear, he wasn't meant for me, and I've learned the hard way that with any love, you have to consider the ramifications of that love. Did I make the best choice in this situation? Let me know what you would have done.